Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Today's show is about learning to love yourself and the tips, tools, and techniques that you can actually start implementing to make that happen. And our guest today is Marla Goldberg. Now, before we get started and before I tell you a little bit more about Marla, as we're approaching here mid to end of August, I just want to remind you that the next free 30-day manifestation challenge is in September. So if you're interested, you can go to jjflazanes.com/30day. That's 30DAY and register for that. Somewhere soon around mid-August, maybe the last week, I will be letting in every one of you who are sitting in the wings of the Facebook group to come in and watch the videos and get to know people and sort of get yourself situated before we start on September 1st, using the practices to enhance our vibrational frequency and to be in more of a receiving and receptive mode most of the time. So if you want to do the 30-day manifestation challenge, it is free. September 1st is when we start, but you have to register about a week ahead of time, jjflazanes.com/30DAY. And the last free thing that I will remind you of is I'm doing a webinar on September 5th. It's the Mind, Body, Soul Method to Manifestation. It is Thursday, September 5th at 5:30 Pacific Time and 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It will be recorded. However, you will get bonuses, really fun ones, if you show up live to the webinar. So that you can also go to jjflazanes.com/events and check that out and register for that. So today's show, Marla Goldberg is an energy healer, intuitive, speaker, teacher, host of Guided Spirit Conversations, and best-selling author of My Fucking Long Journey to Loving Myself, A Guide to a Shorter Path. Welcome to the show, Marla.
Thanks, JJ. I'm so happy to be here.
So many people ask me, it's funny because I've written a book too called Fit to Love, and it's really about self-love and self-care. And so many people have asked me, how do I love myself? How do I really do it? What does it look like? And so your book, My Fucking Long Journey or Effing Long Journey to Loving Myself, A Guide to a Shorter Path, felt like the perfect way to educate people as to what that looked like for you and maybe give them some tips and tools about how they can shorten their time frame, take something tangible, and really make it a part of their life so they can get the results that they're looking for. So I want to start out by asking you, because obviously the title of your book indicates you've had a struggle and that it took a long time. And I know you're also a podcaster and intuitive. So why don't we talk about your story and how you got to this place, especially when writing the book and feeling like, okay, I finally got it. And here I'm going to share it with you guys.
Okay. Well, my journey is long because my age is long. I'm not 20 something. And, most of our parents were not brought up with the kind of educational structure that they have today to teach people how to be functional, to teach people how to raise their kids in a loving, supportive environment. And some people don't have any desire to do that because they're so caught up in what's going on in their own world that they can't even really pay that much attention to their family. And that's the case with me. And so my journey is one with obviously dysfunctional upbringing. And I was engaged at a young age, and that broke off. And that sort of solidified some low self-esteem issues I had and self-worth issues. And so I became a magnet for every unavailable relationship that came to me, whether it was emotionally, physically, mentally, whatever it was, it came to me. And I didn't realize that it was coming to me because I had I thought I had high value for myself. I thought I loved myself and took great care of myself. But when I look back at my choices, my life's choices, they weren't good. They didn't serve me well. And I finally hit rock bottom during my first marriage. And during that marriage, I was married to a man who was an alcoholic and an abusive one. And I just hit the lowest place. I just couldn't see living life like this anymore. And it's like, what do I do? And I went to a women's conference. And it was during that women's conference that I met my first spiritual teacher. And I started going to her school. It was a 3-year school, and learned 14 healing modalities. And I had my first psychic experience the first day of the first module. And it was incredible because I kept thinking I was so blocked. And I was blocked. And I was blocked because I didn't know how to get out of my head. So from there, I finished the school. But the school, going to school, I was pulling away the layers. Some people use onions. I like to use the term artichoke because you get to the heart of the matter. And so while I was in the school, I realized I don't need to be married. I don't need to be miserable. I don't need to continue my life like this. And through that education, I started pulling back and learning techniques to release the anger, not only anger at others, but the anger I had at myself for my choices, for what I brought into my life and the struggles I brought in because of those choices. And from there, I learned forgiveness. And again, forgiving others, but more importantly, forgiving myself. Then we go into learning self acceptance, as I like to say, warts, wrinkles, and all, and which ultimately turned into self love. And with self love came a wonderful gratitude um, practice that I include into my daily prayers. And so that's brought me to where I am today. I didn't think I was going to be an energy healer, and spirit had other plans for me. And one day I was traveling with my husband, and I heard this big booming voice say, "You need to start a practice. You need to start helping people." And I turned to my husband. I said, "What did you say?" And he's like, "I didn't say anything." And I told him what happened. And so starting my practice, I started, bringing more and more modalities, learning more things, getting totally involved. And it brought me to writing a book because I wanted to help others shorten their path, shorten their ability by using the tips, tools, and techniques, or the TTTs that I used to turn my life around and make it from something that was full of self, I had unworthiness issues, self-worth issues, low self-esteem, to someone who really loves myself and accepts myself the way I am.
What I love about your story is that you kind of went from, let's say, victim, maybe slightly unconscious, didn't like your choices, and I'm not judging you. This is, everybody goes through this, to actually having that moment of not clarity, but connection with source or with God, with guides and with spirit. And most people that are intuitive, like we're all intuitive, we all have this ability. And so many times you work with a healer or a clairvoyant or somebody who is beyond where some of us can get to. But the fact that the switch flipped and you had not only this amazing clairaudient, experience of hearing these words in a big booming voice for you, but you also uncovered your connection. And so that to me is very hopeful for people to hear that, because too often we give our power away to intuitives and healers because we think, well, I can't do what you do. And everybody's different and gets different messages and has different gifts. And I'm not saying that we can do what everyone else does, but we all have the ability to connect. And I love that you established that later in life, where you were sort of in turmoil and you wanted to learn, and you worked with your first healer and first intuitive teacher and did this class and this program. And so thank you for sharing that, because it's really important for people to hear that we have abilities, we have the ability to connect all the time, and we can strengthen that and we can get better at it, and we can really uncover hidden gifts that we didn't know we had through doing this kind of work. So thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. I don't, of course, don't love, and I'm sorry for the things that you've had to go through to get there, but of course it's a gift, right, on the journey of self-discovery. And really, to any of this contrast really brings us to our purpose. And so you definitely feel like you're on purpose now more than probably ever before. Would that be accurate?
That's so accurate. And when you mentioned the gift, once I realized that everything that I had to go through was a learning experience and it was for growth, though I chose to go through it the hard way. Now, everything that happens to me that I might have some, that isn't peaches and roses and lovely balloons and unicorns, I look at it and the first question that comes to my head is, okay, what am I supposed to get out of this situation? What am I supposed to learn? Where's the growth? And I start from there. And then I move into dissecting it in a way I never used to do.
So you talked about these tips and tools, and now that you're dissecting things and have this different awareness and different tips and tools, let's talk about some of your favorite tips and tools.
Okay, so one of my absolute favorite, and it's a mantra for me, is clear, delete, and it gets you focused on the way you speak, the way you speak to yourself, the thoughts that go in your head, the way you speak to others, the way you project out to others. And so you want to clear and delete those before they get into the ethers. Because what happens is you sit there and you say, "Oh, I don't like that person. I hope they trip, fall, and break their arm." Well, and I'll clear delete that 3 times. I'll clear delete, clear delete, clear delete. And you don't want to put it out in the ethers because it comes back to you like a boomerang, but it comes back at you harder than what you threw out. And so for me, it's really important to try to keep my thoughts with a high vibration. But I'm human. And so I do have moments where uh, I'll think something and automatically I'll go, no, clear delete, because I don't want it to get out into the ethers. And there had been times I've been doing this practice now for over 12 years. And there are days it's a mantra that, you're just having one of those cranky days and you think something and it's like, I don't want that out there. And you go into the clear delete and you say it 3 times. And then something else comes up and you clear it. And you just, I mean, if somebody was in my head, they would laugh some days because that's all they would hear is clear delete because of everything that else is that's going on. So that is one of my absolute favorite uh, tips, tools, and techniques. And it's everybody can do it. They don't have to wait for a private time because our thoughts go out all the time. We speak, we say things to people, about people, or we project things onto people. And so it's just paying attention to what you say and realizing that it's a negative something and clear it before it comes back at you.
Marla, can I ask your astrology sign?
I'm a Sagittarius cusp. I'm the 21st of December.
Okay. You're right at the end. You're almost at Capricorn. Um, and do you know your moon?
My moon is Libra. No, I'm sorry. My moon is Scorpio, and then my rising is Leo. So lots of fire.
Yeah. Lots of fire. So that cusp is interesting, the Sag and Capricorn, because it's interesting when you're talking about clear delete, and it's probably very useful. Sages and Capricorns, to me, the difference is, and it's just an interesting placement for you to be. A Sag is usually it's a positively aspected sign, and so positive, usually upbeat, doesn't stay down for very long. And Capricorns are known to be the best at defending their limitations. so so it's like they couldn't get more opposite there, of like right in the way of like, someone who is, going to be positive, going to be positive, going to be positive. And then the other person who literally the knee jerk is negative. The knee jerk is no. The knee jerk is resistance. The knee jerk is I can't do that. So, and just find that fascinating. I asked that because I wondered also if there was any Gemini from the clear delete you said, or if you had any air in you because of the, what's going on in your head. Anyway, it's just always fascinating. I'm always curious as to the energies people bring, and again also in how to learn those lessons, and the fact that you have Sag in you and you appreciate higher learning and truth seeking is also what probably prompted you to take a 3-year course and right and really get into all of this, because some people might say, well, geez, that's a long time and what am I going to do with this, and but Sages love higher learning and truth seeking. So anyway, as I digress, so now so we have the clear delete. And so what's another favorite technique and tool that you think would really shorten the time for people to embrace and love themselves now?
This is one that I'm a repressor. When I was going through that phase, I should say I was a repressor. I would be like Scarlett O'Hara, like, no, no, I'll worry about that tomorrow. And I paraphrase that. And so I would push everything down and just, try to get on with my life. Well, you can only push so much down. It's like putting something carbonated in a bottle and shaking it, it's going to pop the cork. And so you don't have to pop your cork. Instead, I grab a kid's bat, and I personally have a massage table that I used to do work on, but you can do it on a mattress, on a sofa, make sure everything is cleared away. and you take that bat and you hit that mattress with as much might as you can. And while you're thinking about what you want to release, and you let it go, and you just hit that bat. You don't need to do very long before you're going to start feeling things coming up and out. And the only thing I invite you to do is, when you start feeling these emotions coming out and you need to scream or you need to cry, do it. Don't repress it back in. It's out of the bottle. Let it get out, because then it's just very cathartic feeling. And you'll find that you'll start releasing and you'll feel better.
I've been talking about that more recently. Did a live coaching on air session, was interviewed today on someone else's show. I like more and more when I've talked over time, because I guess I thought, oh, people know what I'm talking about when I say you need to release, you need to release, you need to release, you need to express your emotion. And I'm like, oh no, people don't understand what that means. I'm like, people, you need to cry or scream or both. Like, I have now gotten super specific, and I'm like really hitting people over the head
Yes.
with it. Like, you are not expressing or releasing unless you are screaming, crying, or both. So thank you for saying that.
Or or
Right.
hitting something, or
Right.
hitting
Definitely
something.
that
Yes.
physicality can trigger. I had a situation that happened to me years ago. I had a boyfriend who something had happened and I was really angry, and I was in the middle of a workshop, and I was one of the volunteers at the workshop, and I took a friend of mine and I went into the bathroom. I was so angry and it was bubbling up over me and I couldn't focus. And I said, will you come with me? And she said, sure. And we walk into the bathroom, and I was so on fire, and I took a cushion off of the seat in the bathroom and I said, please hold this. And I kicked it or punched it 3 times. And it was literally only took 3 times. And I let a little bit of sound out on the second one. And by the third one, the tears burst out. I released everything. We quickly talked about it. And then I was fine. And it was like literally like what happens when you have gas or when you have a burp. Like it literally came up and out. And then I went back to the job I was doing, and I was fine, and I got it, and I felt great, and I was back to being normal. And so often people don't realize that if they're not expressing what goes on inside of them, then they're trying to hold down that bubble or that burp or that gas all day long. And now you're
Right.
completely distracted, like you're not even present in your life, because all you're doing is trying to hold back what naturally wants to come up and out. So definitely the beating of with the bat, I've had a couple clients work with that too, and I find it very effective. I have a punching bag I've used in the past where I'm so angry and I'm trying to go to bed, and I'm laying there thinking I am not going to sleep because I am so awake because I'm so angry. So I went out to the garage and put my wraps on and beat the punching bag until I let it out so that I could actually go to sleep at night. Anger is not something you're going to be successful at trying to quelch and go to bed. Like, if you're angry and going to bed, sorry, you're probably not going to get to sleep. So I love that one, definitely. I want to go back to this idea of loving yourself, because while these are awesome tools for people to express what's going on with them, let's talk about the idea of loving yourself. Let's talk about, because for some people,
Okay.
they don't know what that means. Like, they think about it and they go, what does that mean exactly? So can we define that?
Sure. Of course we can. So I define it: loving yourself, accepting yourself. When you accept yourself and you're not critical, you know how we walk around and we go, "Oh, I don't like my hips. I don't like my calves. I don't like my thighs." That's not loving yourself. When you make decisions that are counterintuitive, that don't serve you well, and you do that over and over again, that's a sign that you're not loving yourself, because you're not focusing on making choices that support you. You might be comfortable because you've only made these decisions for so many years. But once you're able to realize that you're beautiful inside and out, and I'm talking about the duality as well, because we all have two sides to a personality. Not everybody's not cheerful and giggly and smiley 24/7, 365 for however long they're alive. We go through ups and downs, and we go through them because they're learning experiences, as I mentioned earlier. But it's then coming to the point where saying, yeah, I have a temper, but it comes out when I need it to because it serves a purpose. And you accept it instead of fight it. I remember one time somebody told me I was aggressive. Well, I looked at myself as assertive when I was a serial entrepreneur in my, well, I still am, but in my early career. And I was very, very offended by it. But then I realized later on while I was going through this process that I did it only when I needed to get something done, or when somebody promised something for a client, that I was doing because I was a event planner, and they weren't meeting their obligation, and I had to step in and put on my suit of armor, so to speak, and have to be aggressive or assertive, whatever adjective you want to use, to get what I needed to get from my client. It wasn't great for me, but I did what I had to do because I was a representative. I was a liaison. And so um I realize that even though something may be perceived negative, it really doesn't always have to have a negative connotation if you look at it for the purpose it's serving. And learning how to accept that and bring that into the fold and love yourself physically, learn to love yourself physically. And that's mirror work. You had talked to me about some tips, the TTTs, but it's looking into the mirror. Whether you do it, you look into your eyes and you say affirmations, or you get stark naked and look at your body and learn to say, I love my thighs. I love my hips. I love my butt. I love my stomach. Even if I had 13 rolls, I love it because it's me and who I am. I love my heart. I love my eyes. You just go through, whatever areas, and especially the ones that trigger you, and really learn to love and embrace them and say it out loud while looking at yourself. And sometimes at the beginning you might cry because it's so hard to do. But if you can get past the point of resistance, then you run into the point of acceptance. And when you start accepting, your heart starts opening more because you're not like bouncing off a brick wall. You're now flowing.
I'm glad you brought up the resistance piece because we'll say, well, I don't feel like doing that, or I'm really afraid of that. And as we have discussed on the show multiple times, I think it started with Harville Hendricks in the episode about your relationship explained, that we have to perform a behavior we have resistance to for a certain amount of time, whether it be 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, until we create new neural pathways. It's that like we have to push through that to have a different relationship with it. And too often in this area, things like fitness or exercise or self-love and accepting ourselves, we have so much resistance. We're unwilling to change that, but yet we desperately want it to change, but we're unwilling to do the thing we need to do because we're uncomfortable. And so I think this is a great example, the mirror work with the body, with looking into your eyes. I know I can think of a couple clients right now, and you know who you are, who who could benefit from doing this and doing it, forcing yourself to do it, because the true healing is in changing those neural pathways and reprogramming yourself and accepting yourself, like you're talking about, really accepting yourself for who you are, regardless of what you look like or what you do or what you don't do, or like we have to start there in order for, and that was my whole point in Fit to Love. It's that the energy that we put into our self-care, most people do it from a position of self-hatred, which is why it doesn't stick, it doesn't last, we self-sabotage. I was doing it from a place of self-love and wanted more people to treat exercise and eating well and taking care of yourself and doing the things that you need to do from a place of respect and love and prevention, and because you love yourself, not because you're worried that someone won't hire you or like you or sleep with you or you can't fit into some external thing. So I think the mirror work. So far we have 3 tips and tools: the clear and delete, the bat, letting out the anger work, and the mirror work. Do we have a few more we can impart on people?
Well, you brought up the pillow. So I actually have designed a scream pillow because I think screaming into a pillow is also incredibly cathartic, especially if you can't get your hands on a bat, and even silent screaming. So what is silent screaming? You go through all the actions and emotions and motions of screaming, but you don't let the sound out. And sometimes by not letting the sound out, there's something that is even stronger than the primal scream you can muster up, and it gives you the same effect. It helps you release. It brings things up, and then again, as long as you don't resist it, if tears come, cry. Chances are you'll cry for a few minutes. You're not going to cry for days. You're not going to be like the rain for Noah's Ark, and you're not going to cry for 40 days and 40 nights. You might cry for 10, 15 minutes at the most. And then after that, go, wow, I feel so much better. It's all about the different ways of releasing. And when we go back to the bat, I believe in the heavy bag. I used to box during my divorce and play tennis, and I would visualize a person's face on that ball. So when I would serve it and whap it, I would do it with all my might. And by the time it was cathartic. Again, I use the word a lot because it is, and you end up changing the way you feel because you're getting things up and out. And the more you get up and out, the clearer your insides are, which clears your head as well, because that's on the inside as well, your mind. So that's another technique that I love.
The scream pillow or silent screaming. It's funny because when you said silent screaming, I probably screamed. Let's see, we've moved in this place over a week ago. By the time everyone's hearing this, it'll be close to a month. And the Monday or Tuesday we were first here. No, actually, my mother had left, so maybe it was Thursday, and Doug had left to go do something, and I was by myself. I literally screamed because he unpacked all the boxes and put stuff in places they weren't going to go. And just because he wanted to get the boxes out of the way. And I said, you do realize I'm going to move it all around. He goes, I don't care where you put it. I was like, okay. But while he was doing it, I wanted to scream because I thought, what are you doing? Why are you taking this stuff out of the boxes and putting it in places it's not going to go? And for him, it was just, I'm just trying to clear the boxes. And for me, I'm like, this is not efficient. I'm going to have to redo all of this. And so, but I wouldn't have. So I'm going to try the silent screaming because I was so happy he wasn't here so I could scream. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to scream because it felt really good to scream and just be like, oh, I can't believe he did this. I was really, but the silent screaming, I'm going to try that next time because we're always together. So I really can't scream most of the time, or I can. I'm joking. Of course I can, but I'm going to try the silent scream. So I like that. So do we have like one or two more?
Let's see. Well, here's a forgiveness technique. Whether it's to yourself or to somebody who's done you wrong, whether it's employment, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, whoever. I love the idea of you write a letter to the individual. You're not going to mail it now because there's a ritual attached to it, but you write this letter and you put everything in there. How hurt you were, how angry you were. You could put every swear word in the book. You can make up some. It doesn't make a difference because you're just getting it out on the paper. And if you want to go to the next step, you can be the person responding to you and why you did it. What was behind it? Because I think you can intuitively get that information. You don't have to go to the second part, but it's helpful. And then I'm big on the ritual of burning, but you can flush. You can, put it in what do you call it, disposal. But I love the ritual of burning because you can burn other things along with it. So for example, if it's a relationship, burn the pictures. Burn the things that might make you feel bad. If they gave you something and you don't want it anymore, and of course it's something that's going to be able to burn, throw that in the fire. If you have a pit or something that fireplace. I love my forgiveness letters because you could say absolutely everything and you don't have to worry about being PC and you just get it out. Once again, it's all about getting it out of your system, whether it's on paper, whether you're telling somebody, whether you're hitting somebody and thinking about it, so it releases. It's all about the release that helps you with the forgiveness. And here's what people don't understand because they're like, why do I need to forgive them? They screwed me over. They did this or that. But forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, not the other person. And so give yourself the gift of forgiveness and forgive yourself for anything that you might be beating yourself up about, because there's nobody who beats themselves up more than a human being. The way that people self-talk, you wouldn't talk to your best friend the way you talk to yourself. So that's where the clear delete also comes in. Pay attention to the way you speak to yourself. But if you want to forgive yourself, put it in the letter and you can actually respond.
I do like the write and burn. I'm a big fan of the burn. However, as you talked about pictures, I cringed and my heart sank because the Pisces in me is like, no, you can't. I one time cut up pictures for an ex-boyfriend. I regretted that the minute I did it. I regretted it so much because I was succumbing to his insecurities. and it's not something I wanted. I wanted to prove my love, but boy, did that hurt me to do that. I'm the opposite. I'm the put a picture in front of the picture. Like, it's still my history. I want to make peace with it. I want to appreciate it. But for some people, it's too hard, and I get that. And so you have to do what you have to do. But the write and burn, awesome. And I love the second part of that, where someone could write back and play the part of that person. Because while I also agree and believe everybody needs to get out every nasty bit, every angry, resentful, victimized feeling that you have, absolutely get it out. On the flip side, we have, we want to also forgive and understand on a broader level, because if we believe that story to be true, while it may not reside in us energetically any longer, we still don't really get the other person's side of it. And most of the time, it's really not about you. Something has been misinterpreted, something has happened, and it's about someone else has a lot of pain, and they have unfortunately decided to involve you in that pain. And so I'm a big one on trying to make peace with and come from that place of love as well. But writing and burning is not the first time, like you saying this. I don't talk about it a lot, and I do it. I don't do it a lot, but the burning in general just really seems to help clear the energy. I did a space clearing here yesterday. I don't know why it took me so long. I've been feeling dead, like literally dead. I've been mourning my divorce. I've been mourning this move. I've been in victim mentality. And I finally did the space clearing that I always do. And when I did it and started burning Epsom salt and alcohol all around the house to absorb negative energies, I can't tell you, I've been coming up and down the stairs with leg cramps and with being out of breath, because I'm also very low iron. So I'm having some physical things going on too. And I like have to stop, and it's bad. It's really bad. Now, most of it's emotional, but some of it's physical. And when I did the burning, all of a sudden I'm flying up and down the stairs yesterday. It was amazing. So I'm a big fan of the burn.
But I want to say something. That energy might not be your energy. That energy could be leftover energy from the people who lived there before.
Which is why I did the space clearing. You're absolutely
Right.
right. And I had worked with another healer right after a session like earlier this week. And he said to me, "Is it time to clear the energies and entities in your space?" And I was already like, I need to do this. I need to do this. Like, why haven't I done this yet? And when he said that, I was like, okay, definitely I'm doing it today. Doug was out of town, but I said, I'm doing it without you. I have to do it. You're absolutely right. I felt the energies clear and cleanse as I was doing the space clearing. And so now I actually have more energy in this space. So thank you for that. So let's give them one more.
Okay. Gratitude. Gratitude practice. Big. I mentioned it earlier. I have a prayer practice that I do every morning. And the first thing I do is gratitude. And I do a whole laundry list of, I mean, my gratitude piece of my prayer is probably 7 minutes long, which when you think about 7 minutes is a long time because I sort of detail all the things in my life that I'm grateful for. And I even go into, I'm grateful for the spiritual support I receive because we're all supported. We're all not aware of it. And we don't have faith and trust that we are supported. But I could be grateful for the hummingbird I saw this morning, or the crane, or the fact that my dog is 17 years old. Just everything. It could be, and if you don't have a practice and it's really hard for you to change your outlook to be grateful, start with something simple like, I'm grateful for waking up this morning. I'm grateful I have a toothbrush. I'm grateful I have a toothpaste, or I have toothpaste. I'm grateful for the soap that I use to wash my body and my face and my creams, or what I'm eating for breakfast. I mean, you could just go into the smallest things, or you can get bigger. Grateful for my experiences and opportunities that are coming to me. Grateful I wrote this book because it was not an easy thing to do. So I'm grateful that I wrote it. It's published. It's a bestseller, and I'm able to be on shows like yours, JJ, where I can talk about it and share my gratitude. So gratitude practice is big. And not only in the morning, you can do gratitude anytime. Again, it doesn't make a difference. You can do it while you're in the bathroom. You can do it driving the car. But going to sleep at night is another way of where, as you're closing your eyes, instead of counting sheep, start saying, thinking about what you're grateful for. What happened during the day that you're really happy that it happened, or happy about the lesson that you learned, whatever it might be. Grateful you had a wonderful dinner, or you had a great time with friends or your partner. It doesn't have to be big, elaborate things to be grateful for. They could just be really simple things.
I love that and agree 100%. And so let's talk about your book and let's talk about how people can get it and where they go to get it. And I see marlagoldberg.net is your website. That's MarlaGoldberg.net, marlagoldberg.net. And I believe you can buy the book there.
You can buy the book here. You can buy the book on Amazon. Ingram also sells my book, and we're getting it out there to bookstores. So in the Chicagoland area, they're in Barbara's bookstores, and so we're just starting. It's newly released, so we're out promoting, and or I should say, I am out promoting and getting it as many places as I can.
So let's talk about the book a little bit and what people can expect from it.
Okay, so the title again is My Fucking Long Journey to Loving Myself, a guide to a shorter path. And what you'll get in the book is you'll read my story. But as I was writing the book, I didn't want to just be hanging out dirty laundry. I wanted to make this a book that would support and help people shift their life, to make their journey shorter to a place of happiness. And so I decided to put the TTTs, the tips, tools, and techniques in the back. But then what I decided to do was also illustrate where I would have put them in if I had these TTTs before I learned them, and where I actually did put them in and what I actually used that helped me turn my life from one of, I'll just, be very succinct, self-loathing to one of self-love.
Well, I would invite everyone to check it out, marlagoldberg.net. The book is My Fucking Long Journey to Loving Myself, a guide to a shorter path, because again, like I said to you at the beginning of today's show, I've had a lot of people who said to me, how do I love myself? What does that mean exactly? Where do I start? And so if this can shed some light on that for people, I think it's well worth the investment to get the book, because if you're not currently loving yourself, here's a guide with tips and tools to do it. And let's just get on with it, people. Let's start loving ourselves. That's the whole point of why I'm doing this show. So I appreciate that. And also tell everybody about your podcast.
So my podcast is called Guided Spirit Conversations, and it's an interview show such as this, but I bring on healers and metaphysicians, thought leaders to talk about their practices and what they do and how they help people. And in it, we offer tips, tools, and techniques from their perspective. They share a few in conversation so that it's something easily incorporated into somebody's life. And I also like to do a charity shout out. So my guests, bring in a charity that they like. And this whole thing is to spotlight healers you may not know or metaphysicians you may not have heard of that are very, very talented, but also to give the listeners, a lot of meaty information that they could use to help them.
Okay. And that is Guided Spirit Conversations. And that's the podcast. And I'm guessing it's on iTunes.
It's on iTunes, iHeart, Google Play, Stitcher.
Okay.
The usual channels. Yeah.
Excellent. Everyone check out Guided Spirit Conversations. You listen to podcasts. Here's another podcast. Marla, thank you so much for being on the show today and giving everyone your tips and tools. My goal is hopefully that people will learn how to, again, shorten the path, just like you wrote about in your book. And hopefully everyone will check out your book on marlagoldberg.net.
Thanks, JJ. It was great being here and love talking to you.